Bike ride was good. I'm really happy to be back on the bike more often. A little
Happy
bit of
any
stuff
day I can get
today.
on two wheels.
Go ahead.
Happy any day I can get on two wheels.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. The motorcycle thing provides a whole very different fun. Both are great. Something going up here. Right. 21 folks in the room. Oh, God. So, we talked a little bit on Wednesday night about goal setting and working through that kind of, the first step in goal setting, right? We talked about inspiration. And so we'll come back and revisit that stage quite a bit. But for the sake of today's discussion, I wanted to go over kind of starting the meeting this way. Wins. I did manage to get at least an hour on the bike every day this week and got 100 miles worth of my riding in. So I checked that box toward the goal of being able to enjoy my Katy Trail ride. That kind of next week will have to be more the same, but it has more of an intention, right? Like this week, as long as I acquired those 100 miles and I got that at least hour of a day on the bike, sick. Next week, those are going to be 6 1-hour cycling sessions. And that'll equal the number of miles it equals. So like that going forward will continue to progress, but I'm stoked on that win for last week. Since getting back from road tripping home, shit food has been pretty well under control. And again, like there's a lot of scales to this of eating shit food. For me, being on the road and eating from gas stations and having my hand shoved into this bucket of peanut M&Ms that I acquired every night in the van, I'm gonna go ahead and write that down as shit, not ideal food. Hey, anybody with mics on, go ahead and hit. Oh, sick. I can just do that. All right, got it. And if there's any questions or anyone wants to chime in, please use the chat, and that way I can kind of look back at that and don't get as crushed on train of thought. So, no shit food, right? Like, so just adding that piece to making sure I'm fueling the things the way that I want to fuel them. Instead of doing that, I'm back home. I'm eating just the meal prepped food that I have with the company I work with. I am having a bit more of an idea of what caloric intake feels like with adding in the 100 miles of bike riding. Again, this gives me another chance to be consistent on a thing, and that allows me to look at what other variables are actually making any difference. That's a bit of the strategizing and problem solving, right? Like, so I know that if I'm home and I'm eating these meals at least for a couple weeks based on the workload I'm doing, I can get a pretty good concept of how I feel, how that's fueling me, what I could do different. Do I feel down? If I feel down, where could I add food in to make better decisions, right? So it's just problem solving and strategizing. But overall win, no shit food. Morning routine. I got it done every day this week. I got some version of it done every this week. I moved, I had heat, did cold, and on top of those, as my added bonuses are always: did I take time to find some inspiration? Did I take time to journal and figure out some stuff? Dig into a topic, dig into myself? And then did I start figuring out some plan of action to take for the week and days? And so that using that morning routine is a really big one. Developing a morning routine is going to be one of the really big focuses of the Not Dead Yet weekend retreat we're going to host, and figuring out how to optimize whatever it is for your morning as well. So just FYI, I think it's a really key thing, man, that you can start the day with positive momentum in the win column. And the better you get at it, the better you can get at making that morning routine really effective for you and whatever your goals are. and whatever they need to be. If that's creating space for yourself to know that you did some positive things for yourself before diving into your day. If you set yourself up with things for you, right? Like that morning routine we talk about is putting your own oxygen mask on before you're trying to help anyone else in the day. And this puts you on the offensive, making decisions instead of it just coming and being reactive all day. We talked about progress measured backwards on the Wednesday call. In this week alone, I want some people who wrote any of that stuff down. I would love to hear some shares about wins and what the progress that they wrote down and kind of journaled about, if anyone went into that from Sunday. But hey, looking at mine, under the goals that I'm really aware of, right? Like doing more things in my life that I won't be able to forget, that will create these memories, create experiences, and give me time to reflect and maybe shift some perspective on. And I did that last year, and the ones this year that I've just didn't even have planned that have shown up have been, these 3 trips with Indian motorcycles. It has been getting to go to Patagonia and be physically capable enough to enjoy those hikes, these 16-mile hikes and kind of weird sleep and all those type of things, being able to manage that stress and travel and all that. That's come a long way from traveling with a cane. That's come a long way from all those things. Even though that there's plenty of frustration and progress and plenty of frustration and plenty of, still wanting more. I'm still very, very happy with where I am. And I feel very abundant in that I got to make that progress. And that progress that I made is solely because I gave a shit. So before we go any further, I want to get a couple chances to hear some of the goals and wins this week from everybody. So still have you guys. Lucio.
Hey man, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing good. Getting some morning journaling done while I'm on this call. So
Love it,
trying
man.
to
What are you
knock out a couple
journaling about?
birds. Well, I slacked on the 4 things we talked about on Wednesday, and I realized I had slacked on it, and so I'm making it a point to do that this morning for all the goals that I've already spoken out. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Awesome.
But in terms of the wins that I have had this week that I set out for myself, journaling every day. I try to make sure it stays strictly in the routine. So I do journal every day, whether it's the inspiration or just doing some sort of prompt or just whatever the hell the day happens to bring about my thought process. I do that. I made it a point to write 3 songs every day because music's another big thing for me. Whenever I do them, just write 3 songs throughout the week. Because I had been doing it again based solely off inspiration, and I was getting maybe 1 or 2 in, but I wanted to kind of give it more structurization. And I have 4 in for the week so far, so that's cool.
Hey, and on that one, as just a further question I have for you. Yeah. When you said, you were previously you were kind of waiting for inspiration to hit you, and then you would write songs, right? Have you figured out how to manifest inspiration that you can write songs with, if that makes any sense, right? Like instead of waiting for inspiration to find you, the things that inspire you, so you can find things and content and information, or get outside or do the things like choose the action that typically brings you that inspiration.
Yeah, I definitely think I'm getting a handle on that. So again, typically it was just whatever out of the blue shit that would pop up in my head, and if I happen to have a pen and fucking paper by me, cool, I can kind of go off that. But I've been practicing more writing exercises, so I've just been giving myself different, I guess, structures to follow, and then I just kind of bounce off that and just make myself sit there and write things, and then those things just kind of start flowing. as I get into the process of like, all right, I've written a line, or I start finding maybe a melody in my head and I kind of go based off that melody and wash, rinse, repeat. But just incorporating different exercises that, again, make me sit in front of the paper and just kind of like let my brain work flow. And then the more I've done that, the more easier I find it is to, I guess, grasp onto whatever thread of inspiration I might have had, or I can manifest, as it were, and just kind of continually fucking weave that yarn, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I think, I think that's a really important thing, is to have the awareness and realization of what things inspire you.
And so it's just tacking on that. It's making myself do it. And then obviously I listen to music pretty much nonstop most of my day, which is why I'm so into it so much. And if I hear something that I really like, or I hear a beat, sometimes I'll try to might make my own lyrics completely to match a beat that I might like what I'm hearing throughout the day. So it's just different things. Hearing people talk might get me fucking inspired to, you know, anything that gets the brain juices flowing, and
Yeah, dude.
my mind's kind of made an avenue for that lately. So that's pretty cool. I guess making inspiration, just kind of finding it. It's everywhere, right? But it's just learning to understand it, learning to catch those little waves that you might not be aware of fucking there, but they're there. You just gotta look for them, man.
For sure. All right, what else you got?
After this call, I'm going to go to the hardware store because I have to buy a random orbital sander because I cut out the framing for my wood project that I'm doing. And so I'm going to go sand down this piece of stump that I have, and I can hand sand it, but that's going to be a bitch and probably take me a long fucking time. So I am going to hand sand the nooks and crannies, but in terms of leveling off the surface, because I need to level it so I can actually put the, you know, the little structured framing I want on it, so I can actually cut out those pieces. I'm gonna go buy a hand sander, go do that, come back here, sand it, level it off, put on the little print I have, use my jigsaw to cut out those pieces. And that's a weekend thing. So because I don't have time during the week to do these type of things, to my long days and just trying to keep my life somewhat efficient.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing. So that and just continued introspective growth, man. That's got to be a daily thing for me.
Same. Dude, I appreciate it. Thank you, Lucio. Man, I love hearing that.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Tyler, what's up, dude?
What's up, guys? Good morning. Couple wins for me this week. I've really gotten back into the things that made me feel good when, you know, before I kind of fell into a little bit of like being a little static. You know, I started journaling again, which I really haven't done since I finished 75 hard. So that has felt really good, just getting thoughts down and decompressing. I kind of fell off a little bit the last couple of days, but I've done it more this week than I've done in the last month and a half. So win for sure. And so just moving the needle a little bit more and being a little bit more consistent this week is one of my goals. So I journaled 4 days last week. So getting at least 5 in this week is my goal. And then other win is I had my 10-year reunion yesterday. I did not want to go initially. Just, you know, seeing people that I haven't seen in, you know, pretty much a decade, because I didn't keep up with a lot of the people that I was super close with or even friends with in general in high school. And one of my friends actually reached out to me on Instagram from high school, and she was like, "Hey, like, are you going?" And I was like, I don't know, like, I don't think so. And she kind of like peer pressured me to go a little bit, and so I was like, okay, like, I'll go. So I ended up going, and I was nervous. I'm gonna be honest. I almost stopped at a gas station and got those like little dollar shots or whatever, and took a couple on the way up. And I was like, that's probably not the best idea. So I didn't do it, but I had to sit in my car for a couple minutes to like psych myself up to go in. And honestly, it was fucking awesome. Like, it was like my heart was just like so full yesterday after seeing all these people that I haven't seen in forever. And I grew up in not like a small town, but for like a suburb of San Diego, kind of like a small area. Like we're out in the boonies, so of San Diego, I guess. And so we all grew up together. Like I've known most of the people that I saw there since I was 7, 8 years old, playing sports, like going to school with them, whatever. So there's a lot of memories there. There's a lot of, like feelings and just overall good times. And I don't know why I was like nervous or afraid to like go see those people, but I was. And I think part of it was a pretty common thing that I hear about or that I've seen just around social media and like reading and stuff is like you kind of revert to the person that you were when you
it's a
meet
survival
those people
mechanism,
with
right?
like where
people, I think there's a certain level of emotional intelligence and survivalism that comes into those. The same reason that, I can't help it if I'm in Scotland for an amount of time, or if I'm in Iceland, my accent changes. I sound like a dick. I don't think they think I sound like a dick, but like if I call my brother from home, he's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why you sound like you're fucking singing nursery rhymes to me?" And I think part of that is just I want to slide back in and fit in. And there's a comfort to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, so I kind of reverted to that, and I was very self-conscious in high school, and I mean, have been for most of my life, and it's been very recently where I've become much more like self-confident. And so I kind of started to slide into the, well, what are they going to think about me? Like what is like, are they, like what if I'm not?
Interesting thing, right? Like,
yeah, it's like, but I'm sitting there and I sent a video to a couple people in the group, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, like what they think. Like, I'm going up there to have fun and like see these people who I haven't seen in a decade, who at one point in my life like mattered a lot to me. So like, who cares what, like at the end of the day, like it doesn't really matter what they think.
Mm-hmm.
Like where I'm at is where I'm at. Like where they're at is where they're at. It's awesome. If they're happy, that's great. I'm happy. So like, does it really matter what they think at the end of the day? No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And so that kind of like was like, all right, whatever, fuck it. And so, went in, had a phenomenal time. I was only planning on being there for like 3 or 4 hours, and I was going to be there until around like 5 o'clock, and didn't get home until 11 because we ended up going to a bar afterwards and just like hanging out. And it was,
well, there's so much to catch up on.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. And there was I think it was so funny. So there were a couple of people that I had been best friends with since like elementary school that were there. And don't get me wrong, it was awesome to reconnect with them. Like I will absolutely be, like reaching out to them, talking to them more and doing all of that. But I think it was like reconnecting with somebody who, like, we weren't great friends in high school, but like she was always super nice. She was awesome. We had classes together. Like I know her, pretty like fairly well. But like reconnecting with her was phenomenal. Like we spent like 2 hours together. Like we went and got food together. Like it was just like the coolest thing to like sit there and like hang out and like just chit chat with her.
Or is this a chick possibly into?
No, it was just total platonic. Like she was just super, super awesome.
Right on.
She was super nice in high school and everything. And like we always got along. We just never like hung out. But yeah, and so just like hanging out with her and a couple of the other people that I wasn't super close with in high school was phenomenal. And, I spent some time with the people that I was closest with. But I think, spending that time with them and doing that was probably one of my favorite parts of the day for sure.
So the high school reunion thing always brings up some really interesting stuff. I don't know anyone who doesn't feel that sense of insecurity going back to the high school reunion, because man, that universe and time, that chapter of life is a fucking really strange one, where a pecking order gets established. Like this is our slightly deeper rant I'll go into another day. I believe kind of our education system is built as the most efficient way to get most people to a general amount of information. And so the edges get cut off and it serves the bell curve. Like we took Henry Ford's assembly line and we put it into our education system. It has the same standardized testing across the board for quality control. We move people out of it. High school essentially becomes your first corporate job. Like there's pecking order, there's HR, there's things you can't do. You have to show up all the time. You have to be quiet and get in line and work in a cube. Like it starts already transitioning us to that thing. And so this insecurity that comes from like going to that thing because you're immediately back to being fucking 17. 17-year-old you who's just been hiding and doing other stuff and hasn't had to be 17-year-old you still there. Like that guy's still in there, right? And especially if you allow him to start popping up, in which you took the wheel on, right? Like, fuck, I can shut him up. I'll drink. I'll be more confident if I have drinks, whatever the lie is, whatever that thing is you want to tell yourself. And I'm not saying don't fucking drink. I'm just saying be aware of why you're choosing it. And then what a better perspective of this, right? That if you went into this high school reunion, which is the thing that you wanted to attend, and you went with, I get a chance to show the people in my class that I did my part in proving how fucking rad we all were. That we were going to do more. And like, I get to come show my growth and hear about other people's stories. Think about what's happened in your life since you were in fucking high school. And that's everyone. Like everyone in that room has that. And so there's so much there. The other thing Bonnie and I talked about recently kind of regarding this was when looking back at like that chapter of people and experiences, there's a certain feeling of security that comes from, they knew me when I was 6, right? That like, it's almost the opposite of imposter syndrome because they already know all your shit. They already know the embarrassing childhood. They already know all these things. And so I don't have to have any fronts on all that. Like that blood is already in the water, I guess, for everyone to already know about, right? And so there is a sense of freedom that comes with that, especially once it starts getting removed and you get into that situation and realize those people aren't out for blood. Like people that come to high school reunions, no one's going to the high school reunion to be a cunt. If they are, they won't be tolerated by adults. It doesn't work. And so those people don't ever show up to anything. Fuck them. They'll do whatever it is they're doing. I'm sure they're fine. But yeah, I think what an interesting different perspective to have going into that thing is I'm bringing my light to this thing. I don't care who's interested in it or not, but my light improves the room.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. There was kind of like a contrast. So I mean, I didn't end up really like drinking at all or anything like that. Like I had to drive, and it's just better that I didn't. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I feel like I got to enjoy it more and like really like actually genuinely have those like conversations with people, like how are you actually doing, and like what are you up to, like doing all of that. But there was a kid or a guy, God, we're not kids anymore. There was a guy there who in high school, he was more of like the, you know, like the partying guy and like the doing all of that. And he hasn't changed much, but he literally came in and was like, yep, I've been up for 2 days straight, haven't slept, came here drunk, just had to remind everybody who I am. And I was like, damn, that's That's some shit. Right on, man. Like, hey, if you're happy, like whatever, dude. Good for you. Like,
Yeah,
if
if you
that's what you
are,
want to do.
and man, I've for a long time, right? Like people that live an alternative lifestyle or do kind of things that make them stand out. I think we're taught from a long time that people are doing that solely out of a imbalance, like they're trying to make up for this other thing, whether that's the big truck and tiny dick, whether that's you added muscles because you were a tiny guy then, right? Like any of these type of things. So everyone kind of insinuates that anyone's self-improvement is to cover a thing or self-destruction. If that guy is not bummed and he's not ruining anyone else's life with these decisions, fuck am I to tell you what to do? When we went to Bonnie's friend's wedding a couple months ago, and these are all like Bonnie's college homies. They're all just rock solid fucking people. And one of the guys, Casson, he's the weirdo. He's the guy who, well, everyone's kind of doing jobs and marriage and these type of things and some divorces and some standard life things that everyone's got in common. Casson's been living in Australia for the last 10 years giving surfing lessons. This motherfucker's from Iowa and shows up with a pretty gnarly Australian accent. And like talking to him was great. Cause he just, and even talking to Bonnie, I was like, has he always been just not playing by the rules? And she goes, oh yeah, Casson's never once tried to be part of whatever was happening. And so like, I fucking dug it, dude. You're allowed to do whatever you want. And that guy figured it out at a young age that like, oh, well, I'll just go teach surfing lessons in Australia. Well, you're from Iowa. That doesn't matter. Fuck, he's Australian as far as it's concerned. He speaks it, looks it, and has an Australian girlfriend. Who am I to tell him otherwise? But yeah, I'll let you continue on.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, I don't think I have anything else really, but yeah, it was cool to see that everybody there was, and it was funny because once everybody kind of like settled in, it was like, dude, I was fucking nervous driving up here. And then everybody was like, dude, me too. Like we had no idea what to expect and like whatever. And
Of course.
yeah, and it was just like, it was so cool to see that we were all kind of like on an even footing and like everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Like there were a couple of lawyers there, like there were some people that were still in school. Some of our friends have kids now, which is super weird. And then everybody's kind of doing their own thing. It was just really cool to see.
It hasn't felt less weird. It hasn't felt less weird now that I'm 40. If you're hoping to feel less weird in the future about it, it doesn't.
Yeah. Especially because it's like you think back and it's like, dude, we've done some things. Like you have a child now. Like you're responsible enough. Who said you can do that? Like,
yeah.
But yeah. So that, I mean, it was just super nice to see that we all, because we were a pretty tight knit group. Like growing up and everything, and being kind of like isolated almost from the rest of San Diego, and just coming back into that setting and being all together again, how close knit we were, because like we spent so much time together, and like I feel like that matters. So
yeah,
that was kind of it.
And now it's up to you to decide whether you'd like to facilitate those relationships into your life anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, absolutely with some of those people for sure. It would be, something that I need to work on. I got some numbers yesterday from some friends and stuff, and plan on reaching out and doing all that. So.
Got it. Jared, let everybody in. All right. Kind of diving into today's talk. We talked a bit about inspiration on Wednesday, and like I said, we'll talk about it more, but I really wanted to talk a bit more about self-awareness. This is something, having Elliot and Charlie around last night, we kind of dove into quite a bit. And, self-awareness thing, right? Like trying to be more aware about why I do what I do, why I think what I think, why I say what I say, why this emotion gets triggered, why I follow in a path, right? And so the better that you can get at having self-awareness with yourself and being able to look at those motivators and whatever it is that is making you want to do a thing, remove judgment from it. Like, get rid of that ego voice that has a feeling about it so that you can look at it simply as data. And is this something we would like to continue or not continue? And if it's something we want to not continue, let's figure out where it started and where the roots are. And, you know, the awareness of just parts of the motivation, you know, that there's gross parts. And I think having awareness for that too matters. I think without the awareness of it, it can allow those things to get out of control without pretending that's the reason of why. I think naming it makes a difference. We did this practice at one of the intensive weekends I had attended before. And it was essentially about actually getting rid of something to this group and letting us all shake it off with you and be part of it, and just no judgment, let's have it. And so it was, you know, sharing something about yourself that no one knows, that you're not stoked on, but it's true. And so one of the hosts that weekend, he got up and he shared and he said, you know, it's not all the reason, of course, but there is some percentage of why I am interested in loving and making my youngest daughter's life the most amazing thing ever. And part of it is out of some resentment that my older daughter doesn't want to be around me. I'm like, yo, that's fucking ugly. That's an ugly motivator for why to be a better dad. But that doesn't make it not real. And acknowledging it gives you some power to be able to say, how do we fix that? Maybe look at trying to fix the other relationship too, in a way that's actually positive. And even if that's just starting with doing something more, reaching out, being any of those things, right? But shaking off that thing and actually voicing it and saying it out loud. You know, shame. It's for me, you know, part of, for sure, the way that I attack life now. Like, I don't know what percentage it is, but there's some. And there's some that it's in spite of whenever I was unhappy and I wanted to get a divorce and I wanted to do these other things in my life. There's some part of me doing this now is proving me right and everyone else wrong, that I made the right fucking choice. Not only that I made the right fucking choice, all your choices are wrong. And I'm not stoked that I feel that way. I still feel all the other ways, that I want to inspire people to make better decisions and live a life that they love and do all these type of things. But the more I'm aware of that, the more I can try to get rid of it. I'm also aware that one of the reasons I'm interested in growing my businesses is because I'm still business partnered with my ex-wife a bit. And I was really unrad to her for a stretch. I was a liar. You know, I cheated on her, and she doesn't know the extent of any of it, and most likely never will. But the better I can do all these other things and be able to help it, somehow I feel like it makes up for it, but it doesn't. But that's a real motivator that's in me. And so I'm aware of that too. There's shit to fix. So like having that that awareness too of all my motivations, not just the big stuff. So as we're talking about goals, you know, I wanted to list a couple of mine and kind of look at like what possibly some of my ugly motivators are. One of my goals, man, is I want to write a New York Times bestseller. And my overall awareness for why I want to do that, man, that allows me to reach the most amount of people. It doesn't allow me to do shit. It is simply a marker that says I reached X number of people with my message. And I believe that X number of people reached with the message, X number of people will feel it and change and spark something different in them and have an impact in their life the same way it has for all of you people, the same way all of these things and my fight through that stretch of my life gave me these perspectives, and these perspectives have allowed my thing to flourish and be what feels like the best me that I've ever been yet. But I'm aware that me being a New York Times bestseller allows doors to open for me that aren't currently open for me that I'll get to use to benefit myself. I know that. And that is one of the reasons I'm interested in it. I'm not pretending that's not true too. Which one of those I decide to put the most energy toward is up to me. And so that's how I use that awareness to make sure that I'm driving down the path that is in line with my intention. And my overall intention is, how do I make the biggest fucking impact I can? How do I show people? How do I live with? How do I live a life that's aligned with those intentions of trying to help people, trying to grow more, trying to better myself in a way that never gets in the way of someone else's path? And it aligns with that. One of them doesn't as much. One of them is pretty self-serving. And that's all right as long as that's an extra side effect. But it can't be the main motivation, and not for me. I won't stay happy there. I won't stay motivated, and I won't stay interested. You know, Katie Trail, you know, even a physical goal, right? Like doing something like that, like the awareness of goals. I even just wrote down all of the reasons why I'm interested. You know, for one, it's the experience of getting to do something like that. I don't have a frame of reference. I'm interested in the new experience. It's really hard. It'll be really challenging, and it'll require 100% of me to get it done. There's a lot of things that I will learn from that I will be able to apply to everything else that I know go forward. Same way the lessons I learned from throwing have really had lots of ripples and affected the rest of how I've done everything. So did the Bryce Canyon run, and so will this. So I'm looking forward to all those lessons that I'll get along that journey of the training to get ready to do the thing and deal with battling my own bullshit of boredom and not wanting to be on the fucking bike anymore, and answering to that voice that says, you know, we don't have to do anything we don't want to do, right? So we're here, which means you want to be here. So shut the fuck up. That's a simple answer. You wanted to be here. You set up fucking 12 weeks to be here right now. So fucking be here. Don't fucking try to leave this one. Stay present in it. Stay present in being able to figure out how to combat that voice that says we should fucking stop. That'll make up reasons. I get content from it. It helps my job. I'll probably make some money because I'm going to get some sponsors involved and put together this content piece. It's a test for me and my team to see how well we can tell this story. It's a pretty low risk, high reward goal. And by risk, I mean like It won't cost me a ton of money and my fucking body won't fall apart. I don't have to jump out of an airplane or get hit by a fucking, or try to ride a bull, right? Like, I don't know if being a bull rider needs to go in my list of shit to accomplish in the rest of my life. I think I may have missed the window with my skeleton of thinking that's a probably good idea. And then where do the more gross parts come in? I know doing more of this cycling content will add me into new eyes, as well as more chance to work with other sponsors that don't know me. Which means I can probably get free stuff. And I like getting free stuff. It's not my favorite reason to do a thing. I want to be able to consider myself an adventurer. And unless I do fucking adventures, you don't get to be an adventurer. It's the only way it works. An adventurer is one who does adventures, someone who adventures. And unless I'm doing adventures, I won't be that. And I want to be an adventurer to me enough that I'm willing to do this, even if it's not something I'm totally in love with. And part of that is just to prove that, like, I don't have to love to do it. Also not my favorite reason. I'm excited to share this with one of my best friends, mentors, and favorite people on earth, Kelly Starrett. But I'm also aware doing it with him is better for business than me doing it with someone else. That part I don't care for as much either, but it doesn't make it not true. And so when you're looking at your awareness of stuff, and whether that's your own personal feelings, how you feel, how you operate, how you notice patterns that pop up, and how you emotionally handle from a trigger. We've talked about that with that ability to fail. And the metaphor I use being skateboarders and BMX riders, that they get better at falling. And eventually over time, you don't only get better at falling, you get better at feeling things not being right. And that's why they end up taking 20 run-ups. It's because, there's that feeling of like, I know now it's coming. I know the failure's coming even before I've started. So they take another run at it, another approach, instead of even ever letting it get to failure. You can have that same type of awareness with practice of anger coming on. And instead of being able to cool your fucking anger down with breath work and do any of those things to refocus, I can catch it on the front end and know this is going to be a problem. Start getting my shit together. Like, it's coming. I'm not going to avoid it unless I can totally fuck off. That's not always the option. So like, if I feel that anxiety, that anger, that frustration, that venom, that once I'm past a point, I will fucking put on the people around me. I'm much better at it than I was a decade ago, but there is still a line that I'm not capable of crossing and not getting shitty with the people around me. And really trying to justify why. Instead of like, oh, you're frustrated and probably hungry and being a dick. Just more of the truth. I open that up a little bit, right? Like that idea of the ego hiding in some of the motivations that you have, and just being aware of it. Like, I don't want to crush it, right? Like, I don't want to bury it and be like, oh, that's a fucking ugly motivation. Push it under there and don't pretend that's real. No, fucking put light on it and keep that thing in front of you where you know it is. That way you can always address it and not fall toward it. Anybody, does that bring anything up for anyone? Make anyone think about, I guess, anything? Or I guess any questions or clarity, anything at all. I really want to start trying to structure these in a little bit more way that there's takeaway and that you guys can, add some stuff into your lives. And so this is kind of a chance of like, hey, I'm kind of feeling this with whatever I've got going on. What do you think?
I think I've kind of brought this up. Oh, Jared, go ahead, dude.
In the sauna.
And my phone died once already. I just wanted to hop on and say, like, that was just exactly what I needed to hear. Now that I'm opening up more and I have some obvious motivation, and like you said, some of it's not the best. I know some of it's really good. But yeah, I just thank you. That was really good.
Thanks. Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, and back to JP's comment in the chat too, like there's a lot of motivators. There's a lot of reasons why we end up doing the things we do. And like what he's talking about there is we feel one way about something, and like truth is it's really complicated. A lot of things are really complicated. Go ahead. What's up, Brian?
I've lost my mic. I think first things, when I raise that hand, I get filled with anxiety of like, I have to be vulnerable, and it kind of is in line with what you kind of brought up for me. And it's, as you were talking, it's, one of my ugly motivators. And as I think about the things that I desire from life, I want a better life. I want more than I have. I want a huge amount of things. I'm not happy with one thing. I want 10,000 things. And I've lived my life to this point in, I'm going to do something, see if I like it. And if I do, great. And when I no longer like it, I don't do it anymore, for the most part. But then as I think about what you're saying, and I think about myself, and I reflect on a little bit, what is the primary driver behind my desire for a better life? What are the things that are driving me towards this? And there's a bunch of, intrinsic motivations. I want financial freedom. Like I was broke for a long time, like shit ass broke, living on, ramen and milk. That's it for today. And some days you don't eat, right? And from there, it's ego. It's just pure, unadulterated, ugly ego. And it's that ego that I need to prove myself to everyone who said I was stupid, or anyone who said that I couldn't do something, or said that what I wanted wasn't possible, or I wasn't good enough, for whatever it is. And I don't think I've ever taken the time to stop and, reflect and say, why am I doing this thing? I just do it because it's just like, I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to get it done. And it all fed into that conversation we were having, about imposter syndrome, and I think Batty asked me a question, and I've been reflecting on it for the last couple of days because I just wasn't ready to answer it. I just didn't have an answer. And you kind of like just brought up the answer, and I've written a whole page here while I was listening to you, and it's what am I afraid of, with the opinions of people that I respect. And really, I'm not afraid of the opinions of people I respect. When I'm close with someone, when I respect them, I want their feedback. I love bad feedback because it means that I can change my actions to better suit the lifestyle that I want, or to help me better engage with the people around me. That's a great thing I can do. I can learn from it. I do it all the time. So why is it that I always navigate towards this, fear of putting myself out there, this feeling of imposter syndrome? And it's not that I'm afraid of the opinions of anyone. It's that I'm afraid that the people that I hold in high regard in the topic where I feel an imposter are going to prove my ego wrong. They're going to tell me that, hey, all these other people are right and your ego's wrong. And I'm too fragile an individual to take that ego hit where I'm going to sit back and go, oh, great. What do I need to do and think about myself? Or I have been too fragile in that thought process. I think reflecting on it now, I can move forward and be a little less fragile, and then that leads into, the thing and where the anxiety came from. I'm terrified of being vulnerable, because if I'm vulnerable, I'm in the spotlight. And if I'm in the spotlight, then I'm under scrutiny. And if I'm under scrutiny, then someone is going to prove my ego wrong. And it's this whole feedback loop.
Right. That it's a fear loop.
Yeah.
It's a fear loop, and most people get really stuck there. Man, that feeding the ego thing. Feeding your ego is, it's like constantly having to throw wood on a fire and more wood on a fire that'll never keep you warm because it's not for you. You're building a light to impress other things around you. Instead of, you can build a much more concise fire that's just for you and warm all those things. You know, especially with that, feeding that ego, and part of that, right, is that since the fire's never going to warm you, there's always the idea that adding more wood will make it hotter. It doesn't work that way. I'm not saying don't build the biggest fucking fire you can. I want you to. I plan on it. But I'm building a fire that's for me. If it also gets to warm other people, I would love that. But this fire, this energy, this life I'm living, first and foremost, it warms my fucking soul. And it takes a lot of work to figure out what I said, the awareness of what are the things that actually warm your soul. And for mine, it is that new experiences. It's staying out of routine. It's interacting with new people. It's challenging myself to express ideas. It's challenging myself to write. It's challenging myself to make new things. And that kind of brings us to, like, I think there's two parts of the ego. There's this part of the ego that wants to prove everyone wrong. And there's this part of the ego that's going to be that non-warming fire. But there's part of an ego that's involved in wanting progress because I can get better at it. Because me getting better at it provides me more skills. Me having more skills makes me more valuable. If I'm more valuable, I'm more confident. If I'm more confident, I get to be around more people and do these things, right? So that's still ego too. But one of those is for you. Hope that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And, you know, it's the difference between the ego driven, I want this, and the ego driven, I have to show everybody that I can do this. And it's the two spectrums of that. And I think there's a huge amount that I need to, like, kind of think about from this, and then come back and I'll have like 20,000 more thoughts, because that's how I usually process, is internalize and then externalize after. But it makes a lot of sense to me from that perspective.
Good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
Fraser, what's up, my man?
How are we? Essentially stuff that Brian had said there really sort of resonated with me, with the whole, you know, trying to figure out why you're doing something, and usually it's for the complete wrong reasons, i.e. proving someone wrong, you know, trying to impress people that don't even notice you, trying to impress people that have absolutely zero impact on your life. For me, obviously, I'm quite open to speaking about personal experiences without much kind of holding back. I've been in therapy for the last 10 years. When you have to speak to someone and explain, I don't care anymore. I'm happy to explain it. So I can be out a trail run and I can get to a steep incline, and I'll start to walk, and in my head I can think back to a couple of exes ago's dads, thinking if they were in the woods right now and saw me walking, I would be really embarrassed, because I really, really wish they could see me now. I have the most ridiculous motivations for certain things, but as like you'd said, you know, you're building a fire that's never going to make you warm. I was doing everything, like entering, you know, endurance events, powerlifting meets, taking steroids to just to obviously try and, you know, do better, be better.
Mhm.
And at the end of it, nothing happened, nothing changed, because I was building the fire for someone else and not me. It's only recently in the last couple of weeks that the fire that I'm building has started to warm myself, because I am doing it for me. So the end result, I couldn't care less. It's more of the being proud of who you are, because you're able to take the steps and follow the progress, follow the plan, and know that you're doing it for the right reasons. So you're 100% not alone in, you know, trying to prove people wrong. I try and prove people wrong from school, still running through my hometown. I'm paranoid that they're going to be in the car and going, why is he running so slowly? God, he's a bit fat. I thought he was a personal trainer. There's all that going on, but I think that is more of an ego thing. But trying to figure out, you know, a healthier way of looking at it definitely helps. But it's far easier said than done. It's taken me 10 years to figure out how to do things for myself and actually like myself. So yeah, definitely not alone
So
on that side of things.
so with that, right? Like going forward, have some grace whenever you can't figure a thing out and realize sometimes it takes 10 years,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
Things take a long things that matter take a long time.
Well, they can. And they take as long as they're supposed to for you.
Yeah,
If it's
Yeah.
valuable for you to figure out. Like that's the journey. And like it's not you being handed that switch 10 years ago to immediately feel this way doesn't undo any of the stuff. Like that's a temporary switch. Instead, you've worked through it and dug out the weeds. Like you've chose to weed your own garden.
yeah. I couldn't be happier with, you know, obviously having a hard life. It's the weirdest thing.
But man, look, you haven't been part of the group that long. And just the progress and changes that you've seen and flip in your life since being part of it has been really, really rad to see, man.
It's huge. It's difficult to sort of admit, to be honest, because I was talking yesterday to Jared, and I was like, I've not been this happy, confident sort of myself ever, and everything is all sort of cultivated in the last 3 months with being part of this group. But at the same time, I'm extremely grateful for having these horrific breakups, having these terrible bosses, you know, self-harm, being on medication, going to therapy. Because without it, I would not be who I am today.
Correct.
I would be a far weaker person and not appreciate life and the opportunities that I would. It's difficult to be vulnerable, but at the same time, it opens up so many more avenues into people. Do you know what I mean? Like if I was to be part of this group and not share or hold back, then I wouldn't have got half the responses that I would have, and I wouldn't maybe have been here today. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
So,
even just having a community that isn't going to feed into any of the, the fear cycle that you were working through with your decisions, especially if you leaned on the normal people that you're around who may operate like the guy you don't want to be anymore. And so then that's an actual physical manifestation essentially of that side of your ego in front of you saying it from someone you may love. It's a very fucking tricky thing to navigate, because if this person does have my best wishes at heart, is not doing that saying fuck you. And it's not.
yeah.
It's not their fucking decision. The other thing I thought about, so you said for a bit that you'd dabbled in steroids?
Yes.
How long?
I think about a year.
Okay,
Year
so
and a half.
not terribly long.
No,
All
no.
I was wondering is if you're doing anything now to monitor blood work, check hormones, or do
No,
any of that.
it was literally Anavar and Winstrol tablets. I never did injections, so it was
Okay.
Even then, it was like light. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't anything.
Of course.
Anything proper.
Sure. Well, I mean, but even still, then, like, along with everything else, have you done anything to look at a blood panel to see what hormones are?
No. Actually.
It's worth looking at, man. Like that's
Right.
an easy thing as far as hormone stuff. Once you're a male and get close to 30s, it just starts to fade. Doesn't have to. You don't have to be that way. We have technology to not do that. And so if I'm willing to do all this hard inner work and I'm willing to go to the gym and walk and willing to do all these type of things, if you're telling me there's a way that I can optimize some stuff without having to spend hours a week on it, I'm fucking in. Yeah, Johann's chiming in there, and that's really for everyone in the group. I started making sure my hormones were in check, and I was staying with testosterone toward the high end of average when I was 33, whatever it was. 33. Whenever I retired from the Highland Games. I basically had got on there because once I had looked at blood levels, I'm like, holy shit. So easy stuff to stay on top of that does make a big difference chemically, right? Like think about if you've been trying to drive your vehicle at low oil levels, if you've been trying to do any of these type of things, it's not going to run better. And if this gives an idea of making that engine run more efficiently, I'm going to do those things. The long-term negative side effects of hormone replacement therapy are essentially nil. They're kind of the same as being alive, which is at some point you're going to die. What else you got?
Me? Or
yeah, you good?
Anyone else?
All right.
No, I'm all good. I'll leave you alone.
All right, mate. My brother. Can't hear you. Hey, I can't hear you at all. Okay, gonna add it to the chat. All right. I know this is going long. If everyone's still in, I'm just gonna fucking keep ripping. Elliot, what's up, dude?
No, I was gonna say, just to put a pin on what you were talking about, Fraser, the thing that, and you said all this, I'm just saying it short. The thing when all that stuff changes is when you just started doing it for yourself, and then all that other stuff started to click into play. Right? You're like, oh, there's just been this wild realization over these past 3 months of all that kind of stuff. But that's the constant through that, is that all that stuff you've been working to do now for the past 3 months has only been for you and not for anybody else.
It can still be good for other people. It doesn't have to be completely selfish, right? But if it isn't for you, and that's kind of back to the really simple thing, if it's a fuck yes or it's a no, and if it's for you, it's a fuck yes. So, improving your awareness and the root awareness of why you're doing a lot of things you're doing is going to improve your overall control of the machine and the brain. Allow you to navigate stickier situations, allow you to problem solve better, allow you to problem solve and get you toward your goal with not having the ego get in check of whatever it immediately thinks would end this uncomfortable piece. observation of yourself. Like just a lot of times doing more of the endurance training right now. At some point during it, same with the sauna, same with the cold tub, the same when I'm hungry and or any of those things. And I know that, Josh, a pleasure, my friend. I know when that voice starts showing up that it wants to quit, it wants to avoid things, it wants to do all that. And so now at this point, I'm aware of me enough to know that voice is going to show up at some point. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm just not going to give it any energy. There you are. Good to see you again. We're going to keep doing this. You remember how last time you showed up and we didn't stop and we didn't really discuss it. So you'll get quieter. Or it takes longer for it to come in, because it kind of comes in waves depending on how hard the thing is you're doing. Over 10 years of trying to get better at a thing shows up a lot. That's when those plateaus or any of those other things kind of kick in, right? Like that voice of self-doubt, that voice of any of that. So stop removing any judgment, or start removing any of the judgment that possibly shows up with any of that emotional awareness of how you feel or what you're seeing or what's coming, and just notice it. Just have the awareness of it. Don't have a fuck that or this. Just be like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I feel that way. Why? And work your way through it. And whatever's there is there. Don't avoid it. The other one is, as we'll kind of start shifting to something that we're move into for next week. That inner voice that's inside of you, that one for me that shows up when shit's hard and wants to quit and wants to do any of this, the one that has self-doubt. Who does it sound like? Or is it actually you? Because if it's you, we can make it sound however we fucking want. We can get control of that voice. That's a voice that we get to decide who it is, right? Like, is that voice in your head a high school football coach that motivated you, that's saying, you fat fuck, get fucking going. Let's fucking get going. You can't fucking do this, blah, 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 blah. Is it a parent that told you you're not fucking good enough, make moves? Or is it you saying, yo, we're fine. We're fine. We're still moving. We're still making progress. This is okay. Like, both of those voices can help you accomplish the same thing, but you get to choose that voice. You get to choose how you want to speak to you. The more awareness you start getting of pattern recognitions, like I said, that are going to lead to whenever that anxiety or anything starts coming, and you catch it on the front end and you control the narrative of it and let it, instead of letting its momentum gets fucking spun out of control, which leads to the ending anxiety, which then comes with fear and paralysis and just being stuck in that circle. Body, my brother. It's good to see you, my friend. I'm sorry I've been absent. As you can see, I'm excited to chat. I'm just going to drag everyone through an entire Sunday.
Likewise, man. Awesome to see you back, man. I've been kind of absent myself. I haven't been on here for a few weeks, so I'm really glad to see all your faces. I'm a little worried about Sean though, because I haven't seen him sit still in a call so far for months. You know, he might be suffering from something severe. I don't know.
It's extreme Parkinson's.
I thought it was just masturbation. Maybe it's Parkinson's.
Oh,
Did I say it out loud?
I guess one could benefit the other slightly. I don't know.
Yeah. It's been great. It's been a great talk. I was actually just going to sit quietly by because I got on here a little late. I was engaged in something else, but you know, this all kind of reminded me of different things, but they're all about perception. And you know, a lot of the stuff we do in the 12-step work, you know, I've been sober a long time, and a lot of the work we do there is also about just figuring out reality. You know, what of this stuff in my head is true? You know, what is real? Because I have so many ideas about how somebody thought I was a fat fuck, but they never actually said it. So right. I might have just created it, you know. And one of the things that reminded me of this when you were talking about before with Tyler about the reunion, you know, I went to this reunion and basically I thought about it for a while. Should I go back there? Because, you know, I was a crazy kid, you know, crazy teenager. And my idea was that, you know, I had treated half of the people that I was at school with horribly. And, you know, after making a lot of amends, you know, working the 12 steps and all of that stuff, I thought, well, you know, this actually might be a great venue just to go back, see a lot of people and figure out if there's still something out there that hasn't been fixed, you know, if there's anything I can do about it, you know, is there apologies to be said or things to be amended. And so I went back there with this idea that, you know, that I was a horrible kid in school, and, you know, they probably all kind of hated me secretly or not secretly. And when I got there, all the responses, you know, all the interactions I had with people were fun. They were pleasant. They were all talking about how phenomenally fun I had been at school, and, you know, and etc. And it actually kind of blew my mind, because I realized that my image of who I had been at school was so completely different from what the vast majority of them had experienced. There were definitely kids, you know, among those that didn't show up for the reunion that I had made amends to or tried to make amends to, but the vast majority of them didn't have that experience. And, you know, but that other thing about that I mentioned first, which I think is the most important part of this, you know, that is the perception, is that, is this reality? Is this true? Self-awareness is the starting point, as you mentioned before. You know, that's the only way to figure that out, is just to constantly watch ourselves. Journaling is a fantastic tool for that. You know, just self-awareness, breathing. You know, the stuff we've been doing is actually phenomenal. All of these are phenomenal tools for self-awareness, which is the beginning of everything. And regarding goals, you know, reasons coming from a bad energy, you know, my approach on that generally nowadays is fuck it. You know, it doesn't, you know, just fuck it. It doesn't matter. If it gets you going, awesome. At some point, it's almost certain to turn, to change, you know, that if it, whatever it's fueling you to do turns out to be a fantastic thing, it's a stuff you like, it's something you want to do, the reasons will change. If not, it just goes away. So fuck it, you know.
Yep.
Love seeing you guys.
Jason.
How's it going?
Good, man.
So I'm recently just acknowledged, you know, the past couple months that I have let myself go mentally and physically. And so I am acknowledging it. And I have that voice in my head constantly telling me, basically, you know, you suck. What are you doing? As I'm trying to get better. Does it ever get better? That voice, does it ever quiet down?
I've never found that voice to get any quieter. I've been able to change the interpretation of the voice or the voice, if that makes, like, that voice is in my corner now. Okay. It's not, if that's, I look at that voice as like the role it plays inside me, like that's the coach. And does that voice sound like coaches that you had in your past that motivated in methods of like, come on, let's fucking go, that hard, tough coach that we know in movies that pushes us through to the fucking montage of whatever it is? You can choose that coach's voice, man.
Okay.
Recognize when it starts coming on and acting that way and say, fucking stop.
Yeah.
And start saying, look, stop. That voice also is operating a lot in the gap for a term. So that voice is operating from where you're not and not where you've been. Start operating from the other side behind you of, we had an awareness that we've let ourselves go and we've made fucking choices. We've taken some action. We're continuing to take action. All we have to do to change the initial thing that we'd let ourselves go is continue. You can't speed it up. So just keep continuing. That other voice can get so much to the point of, You're not there yet. As if there's a fucking there, by the way, there's not. So sooner that part goes away and you just realize that you feel better doing these things for you.
Yeah.
That's why you're doing them. Not because you'll look better in the fucking mirror. That's a side effect. Stop chasing that side effect. They're fucking fleeting. So use that voice to fucking add fire to, if I do this thing in the morning, the rest of my day feels like it's something I'm navigating with instead of it just hitting me. I know when I take care of myself at the end of the day, when I'm tired, I don't have to argue with myself about why aren't you doing something? I did it. I took care of me. Like, it's a big reframing on perception, you know, perspective. And that's a lot what Body's talking about too. You can start to control those. You know, JP threw it into the chat. I think JP did. Yeah. And so, I mean, basically is saying that, you know, not everybody grew up in this environment that operated out of love and treated everything out of love instead of the fear of not getting there. Instead of that fear of, what if I am fat? What if I let myself go? That other thing. And operating out of love for, I'm doing this because I love myself. Because taking care of myself gives me more options. It allows me to present me better. It allows me to be the better me. It makes the rest of my life easier and provides me more options for things I can and want to do. Like, that voice will help you accomplish the same fucking task. But one of them doesn't have to beat the shit out of you every day for it.
That's good.
So the other voice still shows up. But again, it's typically when when things have gotten a little haywire and I'm really getting into the red. And so I acknowledge it. I'm like, there you are. Okay. And then I go back to the other side. My voice is louder than that one.
Thank you.
Hope that helps.
Awesome. It did. Thank you.
Sam.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of something I wanted to toss in. Something that Matt said earlier and a little bit of what Body said right there, Jason, kind of what you're talking about, you know, not loving that voice. And I think what Matt said earlier about, like, it's not about it being, you know, a good or a bad voice. It's more of, is it in your front? Is it in the front view? Are we aware of it? Do we understand the why? And at that point, when we have that true honest, I believe for myself, at least, when I have that true honest understanding of that why, whatever that voice is, whether or not it is that, you know, that hard-nosed coach voice, or, you know, whatever it is that is inside of you, that, you know, maybe this isn't good motivation. As long as we understand that and we can be honest about it, I think that then we go to what Body said, who fucking cares? Like, I know that, and this is, and I choose to believe that there was nothing inherently, like, malicious about the way I was brought up, but I was, as I've kind of unpacked my childhood, I didn't have anything bad, really, like, I didn't have anything particularly traumatic, but, like, the reality is I was really, really discouraged from every passion that I showed as a kid, particularly by my mother. She was extremely discouraging. If that was the thing I was big on, she would make sure not a single Christmas present, birthday present would ever go that direction that would feed that passion. My big thing became soccer, and she was, the number of times I heard her talk about how much she hated watching soccer was too numerous to count. Again, I don't choose to believe that she was, like, maliciously attacking me, but I know that as I've unpacked this as an adult, and I also have 10 younger brothers and sisters, so some of them are still getting parented by that same parent. And now I start to look for these sorts of things, and it become very easy for me to jump on my mom or to be a little malicious because I see whether or not it's contradiction or her doing something to one of my siblings that was done to me that I'm not okay with. And I've learned that as long as I understand that kind of motivates that response, well, it's not actually how I want to respond. So by me developing that really deep, honest understanding of that motivation inside of me to speak up has allowed me from saying and doing a lot of the things that we get worried about, some of these negative motivations about. You know, we're kind of afraid that it's going to, at least for me, I've always been kind of afraid, like, it'll make me, you know, it'll lead me to something that I didn't actually want, that doesn't represent how I actually think and want to present myself. And so, like I said, by having these things, it's easier for me to deal with these situations because, again, big family, I'm not trying to kick my family out of my life. And, you know,
Yep.
So like I said, just that honesty piece really goes a long way. And they just if I understand why, I'm good with it.
So something to take away on that one, Sam. As a thought experiment and maybe a journaling exercise, and maybe you've already done it. What fear was your mom operating out of? Because do you really believe she didn't want you to try new things at the base level of that? Or is there some bit of, I'm a mom with 10 kids, and if this, I don't have any resources to get people to try things?
I know a lot of it has to do with who her mom was, which was not a very good person. So I know I can, and again, I can kind of see that. Again, I can see that a little bit, that there's a lot of the relationship that she had with her mom. And, you know, I'll just go out and say, like, I believe my grandma is honestly one of the worst human beings I've ever been in a room with. She's just not a good, she's just not, she is the opposite of a kind
not
person.
Immune from being cunts.
No, I mean, like, flat out, like the woman never should have had kids. Outside of the fact that obviously I don't exist, that woman never should have been a mother. And she definitely made it she made it my mom's problem. She made it my mom's sister's problem. Like, my mom and her sister don't have a relationship because of the way that she would pit them against each other as children.
Right.
For, like, make them compete for love. And while my mom never did that, there's just, again, so, like, other than that, I don't entirely get it. Because she isn't discouraging when, like, my little sister decided she wanted to try to do cheerleading at, like, a collegiate level. And now my mom's, like, trying to get her lessons and doing this and that. And I'm like, I wanted to fucking play
she's
a sport.
growing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I see.
Right.
This.
So that has to be something to celebrate.
Agreed. Like, I and, you know, I've said it many times, you know, no, I'm happy they get to do these things. I'm not upset about that. It's, I wish my only wish is that my mom would at least be honest now about what happened 20 years, about how things operated 20 years ago.
How self-aware
and that
do you
is,
think your
and
mom
that,
is?
What's the scale? Because it's a 0.
Perfect. So with that,
unfortunately, it's a 0.
So with that, and like the frustration I talked about with my mom's giving a shit about her health, or
that's still one that I fight with my mom.
Or frustration I had doing this motorcycle thing with my producer, of the way he handles pivoting and problem solving and all those type of things. At some point, my expectations of him to change to something that's aware is my fuck up.
Same boat.
Right. And so it may never happen. And it sure isn't going to happen from it being pointed at.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point it's on you to decide, did the best she had with the tools she had.
She did the job she did. Like, yeah, I mean, in the end, like,
right?
Yep. Like, yeah, I feel like I'm in a good spot in terms of that one, in terms of, like, accepting the fact, like, okay, I don't have control over this, you know, and every step of the way, the more I admit that, the more things go forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, man, I can't imagine the stress of life that would come with having 10 children with the amount of freedom I have. And I can't imagine dealing with it with a lot less resources.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's one of those things. Like I cut that down, and then I'm like, you know what? She also had a brain tumor. Like, so I grew up in a Catholic church. Had a brain tumor after the 5th kid.
Okay.
Even the priest told her, like, hey, you guys can use contraception. You don't need to have more children. She had 7 more kids. At a certain point, it needs to not be, I'm sitting there like, okay, you can't keep punishing me for you choosing to continue to have kids. But with the known awareness level,
ingrained to people that making more kids is the best thing you can do. The follow-up process isn't their goal. And they're not prepared for it.
Oh yeah.
That's why, I mean, there's no qualification to fucking make other humans. I love you, man.
Love you too, dude.
It's been fun fucking getting to work with you and watch you rip.
Yeah, I'll be over today.
Cool.
In fact, I'm probably gonna start working that way. See you guys.
All right, dude.
I'm gonna, like I said,
we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I'm 25-30 minute drive away. Yep. So
Fraser, what's up, dude?
Just really quick for Jason, when he was talking about, do the voices or whatever, ever stop. There's a thing you can do where if you can put a rubber band or 2 around your wrist. So I do it when I'm driving. If you hear or start to kind of go down that rabbit hole of negative thoughts, you ping the band and it will give you a sharp, not pain, but it's annoying that stops the loop, the cycle. It's really straightforward. Literally just something like nipping your ear, bipping a band, and it's not a solution, but it's definitely a tool that you can use to really kind of bring yourself out of that spiral. Just FYI.
As soon as you're caught in that fear loop, like, we're not making decisions, we're not taking action anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're just caught.
Yeah,
that
but no,
fear.
definitely.
Yeah, I had Tony Blauer, is a self-defense guy, on the podcast this week, and he talks. Really, all we spoke about was fear and fear response, and how managing fear is what allows you to fight and allows you to make progress and allows you to continue forward, because everything that is going to be in front of you is at some point in opposition. So, that false expectations appearing real is the way he talks about fear. And I agree with that. Elliot, what's up, dude?
Hey, I was just going to say that in advance of Wednesday call, something to build off that I just kind of be thinking about, and I'll put it in Discord too, is be thinking about what for you are those 2 things that are true at the same time. So what's a motivator for you, or what's something that you're motivated for that you can identify? I have whatever you want to call it, a healthy motivation for this. And then is there another part of it that you're like, I don't know, Jared, you kind of brought it up, which made me think about it. Obviously Matt brought it up, but I'd like to talk more about that on Wednesday, because I think that's fun. What are things that we're into, but things we also know, like, because it's not good or bad either way, but it's just, again, it's identifying it, it's giving it a name, it's calling it out when you see it. And then what do you do about that? So both food for thought.
Yeah, killer. Thank you, Elliot. And to kind of wrap things up, so gratitude practice. This is something I would love everyone to try to do this week. Man, when I finished the motorcycle ride, I was pretty fucking beat down. Leaving Seattle was pretty beat to shit and just needed to get into a better space. It was really hard. The weather was rough. Just overall tired from being on the road for 15 days at that point and not sleeping in one location for more than a night. It's just a lot of moving. So on that drive home, I can feel those frustrations of the trip and just kind of stewing in it and playing through this bullshit fucking narrative of I could have done this or said this or blah. Fucking waste. It's done. I know what I can do better. We'll move forward. So what I switched over to was gratitude, and I started making phone calls. I started texting and sending voice, just a video or anything, to friends, to people that I know make me better. Not just even current friends. I called my high school track coach, as someone I probably haven't spoke to in 20 years. Luckily, number still works, answered the phone. and just told him how important him giving a shit during that chapter was for my life. And it is for sure one of the reasons I am where I am. And I fucking thank you for it. I thank you for giving a shit, for having care, for doing something and pouring energy into me that's never gone away. It has only ever grown and multiplied. My friends that live in Montana, I got to see a number of people. I got to see my friends Megan and Derek. Derek's who I write Daily Destroyer with, that set of programming. And Derek's a great friend and an old thrower, was a Canadian national champion and one of the dudes I love most. I just got a chance to stop by and hug them, and then got to share a dinner with some friends and see them. And then I went and slept in the woods. And all of that was part of this practice. Look, Kalispell, Montana is not on the fucking way to anywhere. Like no one's passing through to get anywhere. So if I'm there, it's because I chose to be there. And I was there not because I needed a place to stay. I didn't need a meal. I didn't need anything from any of these people. I simply just wanted to give them a squeeze and say, hey, thanks for everything. I love you. I'm going to go now. Now, this isn't a conversation to make me feel better. It is simply a thank you. So during this week, I would love to hear 3 people you call and just say thanks for the influence that they had on you. You know, even some of these people that I'm, that I'm interested in calling are like my boss that fired me from my job in 2017. Because the truth is, the 4 years I had that job prior to it paid me enough money and gave me enough freedom to build what I'm currently doing. I appreciate him for that opportunity. At some point, I was going to get let go. He didn't fucking slight me. You know, no one's ever bummed out hearing that they were a positive fucking impact in your life. So take some time, do that this week, and see how it makes you feel. See if it brings you any clarity, any more sense of gratitude in your day and life. So that's it. That's our call for the week. I think we did it. Everybody good? Everyone happy? Anything? Closing thoughts? Awesome. Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys later this week. And I want to hear about the gratitude stuff, man. Just as a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, I guess. I really want to make these calls a bit more structured like this. Not structured, but intentional of being able to provide some more work for you to take home and really start applying to your fucking life. I know that I can get a little bit lost more in the weeds and doing more of the philosophical stuff because it makes sense to me. But I know that if I need to get better at doing this, I have to figure out how to translate it in a way that helps you the best way I can. So without any of that feedback of, yes, this feels better. Yes, I'm giving some homework. This is allowing me to think about this more throughout the week. This is helping me shift. I love getting feedback from you guys as well, because I give a shit about doing this the best way I can for you. So more structured to this and less just me rambling. I like being able to hear back and forth. This is the most efficient way we have technology for. Excellent work. Fuck. Perfect. Anything, please shoot me DMs on Discord and the Not Dead Yet weekend. Really excited about that. That one's in there. We're only going to allow, I think, 10 people to come. There's a couple spots already booked. We have a second one in November. We're going to be doing a lot more in-depth work and working into some of these awareness things and doing some different workshops, as well as a much more structured hot and cold thing to actually produce some results. We're going to do the boxing and jujitsu. I've got a black belt who's going to come, and I've got a black belt friend and a teacher who's coming, and then Jamie's going to come for boxing. And while we've done kind of the cardio boxing thing, what I want here is something more useful. So it's basically like a beginner's jujitsu lesson and something that you can actually use and take away with in some way, being able to better manage your physical form. And with the boxing, I want Jamie to work with us on actually learning how to throw a couple solid punches that would fucking work and help you in your life. Because I think it's really easy to pretend that I'm John Wick and I know how to fucking do things. Truth is, I don't, and it's not going to work that way. So I may as well hit that fucking bag and figure out a couple things that add some confidence to me, like wearing a fucking helmet or a seatbelt, that if shit gets a little sideways, I have another option. If running doesn't work, I have another option. That's somewhere else that I'm in control of a situation. So we're going to do that. Going to be a lot of one-on-one work and journaling. The other one is we are going to take some time to develop a morning routine that's going to work and put you in a place that you're going to make the most of every day for the rest of your life. That's what we want to build, is that fucking way that you can spark your own fire every morning and get that fucking furnace going. So that's what's up with the weekends. Love you guys. The links are all in Discord for everything. We also have the shirts and everything are now up on 1612. Shirts and hoodies are available to be bought as well. So thanks. I love you guys, and we will see you all next week.